everybody, today I wanted to film my July wrap-up of the many books that I read in July. Here they all are, because I had a massive reading slump this month. So essentially this reading wrap-up will just be a review of A Long Way From Home by Carey. But there's a couple of reasons for the reading slump. Firstly, July was such a busy month for me. I was very aware with the summer holidays coming up that my childcare and therefore my working time would be quite limited. And so I was trying to get as much done as I possibly could on my book, which if you've watched my channel over the last few months, you'll know that I'm working on a big book project that I did a Kickstarter campaign for, and I'm trying to get the book all finished so I can send it out to the Kickstarter backers. And so long story short, I've just spent a lot of time sitting in a darkened room to avoid screen glare, just tweaking files and going slightly crazy that all I do is stare at my laptop screen. So yeah, there's been a lot of work on that, and at the end of term there's also quite often a lot of kids stuff, you know, things that need organising and, you know, school related stuff, and so yeah, things were quite busy with all of that. And also the other main reason for my reading slump is that I just didn't enjoy this book at all. And I don't know about anyone else, but I'm one of those people that once I've picked up a book and started reading it, I must finish it. And when I think of the hours that I've spent reading books that I don't like, I just think, I don't know why I don't just stop, because if I was watching a film and let's say I was half an hour in and I was thinking, oh, this isn't for me, I would just turn it off. But with books, and you know, they're longer, they're more of an investment, there's something about it where I'm like, no, I'll finish it, it's okay. But then what happens is, because I'm not really interested, I don't reach for it, because it's not like I'm thinking, oh, I wonder what happens next in that book, or I've got a bit of free time, I'm going to read a few pages of my book. I'm like, oh, I have to read my book. It becomes a chore and I don't want to do it. And so the combination of the two things, being really busy, not having a whole lot of free time, and then in my free time just being like, oh, I don't want to read that, meant that it took me a month to read this book. Now, as always, this is just my opinion. There are lots of people who love this book, but yeah. Often when I do read something that I don't like, it does send me into a reading slump. It normally doesn't last for a month, but there we are. So this book, A Long Way From Home, it was in my A Box of Stories box that my husband bought me for Valentine's Day. I had been putting off reading it because, you know, even just from the blurb, it's not my thing. And I have been gifted a box by A Box of Stories before, and somewhere in the description there's an affiliate code if anyone wants to look into it. But this one is from a box that my husband actually bought me as a gift. So I just feel I should put a disclaimer in. And so Carey, I'm not familiar with him, but I actually had this at an event I was at, and somebody said to me, oh, Carey, I love Carey. And I was like, okay, I'm not enjoying this, but I don't know who he is. I don't know if he's like, I should know, but I don't. So, but evidently he's well known, and it says on the cover that he's won the Booker twice. So yeah, I guess probably is somebody I should have heard of. And yeah, this book, when I looked at the reviews after I finished it, there's loads of people who love it. So as always, it is just my opinion. This wasn't for me, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you shouldn't go and give it a go if it sounds like something that you would enjoy. So, the blurb for this book. Irene Bobbs loves fast driving. Her husband is the best car salesman in rural southeastern Australia. Together with Willie, their lanky navigator, they embark upon the Redex Trial, or Redex maybe, a brutal race around the continent over roads no car will ever quite survive. And it's set in the 50s, and so, yeah, a bit kind of vintage feeling. And so there were a few issues with this book. First of all, I do not care about cars at all. It would be difficult to have less interest in cars than I have. It's like I was talking recently to somebody, and we know someone who has a Land Cruiser, and they were saying, oh, it's a real luxury car. That's, you know, it's nice, that is. And I was like, is it? Like, it's big, but what is it about it that makes it a nice car? Like, my car is nice. They were like, your car is not nice. I was like, I like it. And I to me, it's like you have small cars and you have big cars. Some of them are different colours and some of them are different shapes. Like, I don't understand, aside from something that's like super special, like, I don't know, a Ferrari, I don't like what's special about it. It's just a car. I just don't. My brain just shuts off and goes, don't care. Whenever anyone tries to explain, I just have no interest in cars whatsoever, other than their ability to transport me somewhere. And I have a particular fondness for certain individual cars that I've been on amazing journeys on. But it's that individual car. It's not that type of car. It's just that car was cool. Yeah, I don't get it. I don't get cars. I mean, maybe now's the time to tell the internet that it took me 8 attempts to pass my driving test. So I'm not a car person. All this to say that as a book that centres on cars, it's not going to be in my field of interest. And so the character Irene Bobbs it says her husband's a car salesman, and there's a whole load of stuff about negotiating contracts with different dealers, and then they decide to go on this massive car thing, there's a word, trial across Australia, and sort of all the tribulations that are involved in doing that. Now, aside from the subject matter, which as I say is just not my interest, my brain literally just switches off when it starts talking about car things, is also the fact that it had a switching point of view. And ordinarily, when you read a book that has a point of view that changes, it's signalled by maybe the name of the person in the title of the chapter, or I've seen it before when it was like a sliding doors type book. I can't remember what it was called. And Versions of Us? Might be making that up. And it had, each chapter had a number, if I remember rightly, and so it was the different narratives of that person. So there's usually some kind of signal so you don't get confused. And this one, there's just a chapter number, and it took me about 5 chapters of going, I'm very confused. I thought that, because it's written in the first person, so I was like, oh, I thought I was a woman that was married to a car salesman. Now I'm not, and I seem to be a man, and I got so confused, and then it suddenly sort of dawned on me, oh, it's a different person. That might make me sound so stupid, but also because I was only kind of half reading the book as well. It just took me a while to realise. And then I found throughout the book I was getting confused, because if it alternates, then when I pick the book up, I can't remember what the last chapter was. So I start reading the chapter and I think, oh, who am I? And it might take a few paragraphs for it to signal who it is. And if I am reading a paragraph written in the first person, but I don't know who the person is that's speaking, that's very confusing. I just found it really, really, really tricky. And yeah, as I said, that might make me sound a bit stupid that I couldn't figure it out, but it just, I mean, I did figure it out, but it kind of spoilt it because I had to think too hard about what was going on and who was talking. And so then I found myself about 100 pages through the book, and mostly it was just the characters interacting. Not an awful lot had happened, just a lot of talk about kind of cars and cars. And then I just thought, oh, this is silly. It's taken me weeks to get to that point. So actually, confession time, I skim read most of this book because I just thought, you know what, I need to move on. So probably the last half to 2/3, I just skim read it and just thought, I'll see what happens and see if it gets better. And it didn't, and so yeah, I just skim read the whole thing. And honestly, I was talking to my book group about it and saying, oh, I'm reading this book that I'm not into, because I was supposed to be reading our book club book. And they were like, what's it about? I was like, I don't know, cars, and there's a man and a woman. I don't. So that was the trouble. It's even hard for me to review because I can't remember a lot about it. So the writing style's good. It just couldn't, it's not my thing. It's not my thing at all, and it confused me and I couldn't get into it. So there we are. But it is a popular book, so as I say, that is just my opinion. If you like stuff, I tell you what, another thing is that when I read a book that is set in another country, so this is set in Australia, I want more of a sense of place, and I could overlook the sort of car racing and car dealership stuff if I was really loving kind of the learning about Eastern Australia, but although that was in there, it felt like it was so, I suppose in the same way that if you read a book that's set in London. You're not necessarily going to have a whole kind of Londonness about it. You might, but you might not, because that's not necessarily the intention of the writer. And if Peter Carey is an Australian writer, may not be trying to give that sense of Australia. So I get that, but that for me would have been something that would have hooked me into the book, and I didn't feel like I really got that very much. A bit when they're actually travelling, it is there a little bit, but even then, it didn't give me any sense of wonder or like wanderlust. It just, which I like in books that are set elsewhere. So anyway, the point is that it wasn't for me, but if it's your kind of thing, give it a go. It's you know, highly acclaimed, but not for me, and took me a month to read. So there we are. Now I am reading, or just finished reading, Hamnet, which I really enjoyed. So yeah, I was thinking, oh, I'll include it in my wrap up, but today is the 5th of August or something. I don't even know. 6th of August? Not a clue. The summer holidays can be a bit like that. If you don't have like a day job that you go to and have to look at the date, then, you know, as somebody who works from home and looks after the kids all the time, I don't know what the date is. Yeah, so I can't include that one. That'll be in the next wrap up. And my reading has picked up again, so next month there will be more than one book. In fact, I've already read 2. So, there we are. Thanks for watching. Do let me know if you read this one, what you think, if you've read any of Peter Carey's other books, if you think I should give them a go, if there's others of his that I might enjoy. Yeah, let me know in the comments. Let me know, tell you what I'd love to know, is any book that has sent you into a reading slump in the same way that this one did for me, and where you've persevered with it. I'll give you another example of one for me. Dombey and Sons by Charles Dickens. I'm not a fan of Charles Dickens, and Dombey and Sons took me about 2 or 3 months to read. So yeah, tell me your ones that you have persevered with, even though you're really not enjoying the book at all. Do hit like if you enjoyed this video, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already for videos like this one. Take care.